If you're over 70, the biggest threat to your retirement isn't the market crashing. It's panic. Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan, doesn't talk about getting rich in retirement. He talks about never being forced to sell. And that difference changes everything. Most retirement advice is designed for 40-year-olds with decades to recover. But after 70, time is the one asset you can't replenish. Your problem isn't growth anymore. It's stability, timing, and psychological control. I'm Jay. And what I'm about to show you is why most retirees misunderstand this strategy, and how that misunderstanding creates a trap worse than running out of money. Here's what no one says out loud. Retirees don't fear running out of money. They fear losing control. That's why someone with $900,000 can panic over a $2,200 property tax bill. Psychologists call this decumulation anxiety. You spent 40 years building wealth. Now the system tells you, start spending, but don't mess it up. That mental conflict destroys confidence. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Meet Richard. He's 74, retired financial advisor, has $850,000 saved. He read Jamie Dimon's advice. Maintain cash reserves, diversify income sources, never be forced to sell during downturns. Richard executed perfectly. He built a bond ladder, allocated to dividend stocks, keeps 18 months of expenses in cash. On paper, he's bulletproof. In reality, he's terrified. Last year, his portfolio gained $53,000. His daughter invited him on a $4,200 cruise to Alaska, something he talked about for decades. His response? I can't afford that right now. He has $850,000. He gets $3,100 per month in dividends and Social Security. He refused a once-in-a-lifetime trip because he's convinced one wrong decision will destroy everything. This is the trap nobody talks about. Dimon's advice is sound. The problem is how retirees interpret it. Dimon says, never be forced to sell. Richard hears, never sell anything ever. Dimon says, maintain cash reserves. Richard hears, hoard cash indefinitely. Dimon says, diversify income sources. Richard hears, monitor everything obsessively. Richard now spends 2 to 3 hours every day managing his safe income strategy. Checking bond yields, monitoring dividend announcements, calculating withdrawal rates, refreshing his portfolio balance. He's retired, but he's working harder on his money than he did in his career. And the cruel irony? His anxiety isn't protecting him from anything. His portfolio could handle a 35% market crash, and he'd still be fine for 30 years. But the psychological trap has convinced him he's one mistake away from disaster. Here's where it gets worse. Last spring, Richard's wife wanted to visit their son in Oregon. Round-trip flights, $720. Richard said, let's wait until next year. 4 months later, their son accepted a job transfer to Japan. 3-year contract. They won't see him now until 2028 at the earliest. Richard saved $720. He lost 3 years with his son. His $850,000 safe income strategy couldn't give him the one thing that actually mattered. This is what I mean by retirees get this wrong. They take good advice and turn it into an identity trap. Jamie Dimon's strategy is about freedom, never being forced to sell when the market's down, never having to make decisions from panic. It's about control. But Richard turned it into a prison. I'm the person who never takes risks. I'm the person who always maintains reserves. I'm the person who protects principle. Once safety becomes your identity, you can never feel safe enough. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The financial system rewards accumulation. It punishes decumulation. Advisors are trained to help you save, not spend. Platforms are built around growing balances, not shrinking them. The entire industry infrastructure makes it easier to add money than to enjoy it. So retirees are left with this impossible question. Should I spend this, or am I ruining my future? And here's what makes this worse in 2026. The safe withdrawal rate research just came out. Morningstar says 3.9% is the new safe number for a 30-year retirement. That's down from the old 4% rule. Richard has $850,000. At 3.9%, that's $33,150 per year. After Social Security, he's living on about $70,000 total. He could comfortably spend $85,000 and be completely fine. But he won't, because the safe number is now burned into his brain. He's following the rules so rigidly that he's creating the exact poverty he's trying to avoid. Not financial poverty, experiential poverty. So what's actually wrong with how retirees apply this strategy? 3 things. First, they confuse never being forced to sell with never selling at all. Dimon's point is about avoiding panic sales during crashes, not about never accessing your wealth. Second, they forget that time is the ultimate non-renewable resource. Richard can replace $4,200. He cannot replace the Alaska cruise with his wife when she's healthy enough to enjoy it. Third, they turn strategy into identity. Following safe income rules becomes proof they're responsible. Breaking those rules feels like moral failure. The result? People with $800,000, $1 million, $1.5 million, living like they have $200,000. Not because the math says they have to, because the psychology won't let them stop. Here's what intelligent retirees understand in 2026 that most don't. Jamie Dimon's safe income strategy isn't about maximizing what you leave behind. It's about maximizing what you can do today without worrying about tomorrow. The goal isn't to die with the most money. The goal is to never wake up and think, I can't afford my life. That's completely different from, I must preserve every dollar forever. If you're over 70 with $500,000 or more saved, here's the real question. Are you following a strategy, or have you built a psychological prison? Because if you're refusing experiences you can afford, monitoring portfolios for hours daily, and panicking over expenses your wealth can easily handle, you're not being careful. You're trapped. The smartest retirees in 2026 aren't asking, how do I protect this? They're asking, what would make me feel secure enough to actually use this? For some people, that means seeing the exact math. Show me my portfolio in 10 years if I spend $5,000 on this trip. For others, it means reframing spending as an investment. This $4,200 isn't a cost. It's buying a memory I can never create again. For Richard, it meant his daughter finally sitting him down and asking, Dad, what was the point of saving all this money if you won't use any of it? He didn't have an answer. 6 months later, he's still monitoring his portfolio daily. But he also booked that Alaska cruise. And when his son comes back from Japan in 2028, Richard's planning to visit him there. The money is still safe. The income is still secure. But Richard finally understands what Jamie Dimon actually meant. Never be forced to sell doesn't mean never enjoy what you built. If this changed how you think about safe income strategies, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment. What's one experience you've been putting off because you're not sure you can afford it? Because the real tragedy isn't running out of money in retirement. It's running out of time while hoarding money you never use. Now you know the difference between following the strategy and falling into the trap.